Well, I appreciate you coming on, man. I know you're busy. I know it's chaos, and for you to come on to this little dinky podcast that somehow everybody is ending up on lately is it's an honor, man. So thank you
Yeah,
for popping
man.
on.
Congrats on that, dude. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, I got like yesterday I found out the show made it to the top 15% of all video productions on Spotify, and I was like, I didn't even know it was doing that well on
Dude, that's
Spotify.
amazing.
Dude, I never even checked the analytics there. That I looked, I was like, oh wow, it is doing really good on
That's
Spotify.
awesome.
Thank you, man. But you've had great success on YouTube. You've been doing lots of things over there, man.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's definitely a grind.
Oh,
I'm
dude.
always on it.
And the reward system there doesn't feel up to par. You know, it's like you're grinding and grinding and grinding, and finally you like start to see a little bit of rewards coming through. But
Yeah,
I think anything in the creative field is going to be a grind.
yeah, 100%. It's hard to get started. I think once you get started, you build some systems, you get some rhythm, then it's a little easier to sustain it. But most people that I have a lot of friends that started a YouTube channel in the last few years, and only two of them are still doing it because it's hard to get started.
The sticking to it thing is the hardest part. I think what you had going for your channel is that you're documenting the land and legacy and history of America, and a lot of people are interested in that. And you have a unique approach to it. What drew you to those subjects and decided you wanted to document it through both photography and video?
So in 2009, I went to like a place for very burned out people. So I went to school to be a therapist, and there was this like place out in Colorado that it doesn't exist anymore. They relocated it, but it was a place like where you get like a week of therapy. It's like a it's like a 1 week intensive heart reset place. But the guy who used to run that, he said he made this statement to me in 2009, and it really like has been a compass for my life. And it's two things greatly affect the heart: beauty and adversity. Um, and we all have a lot of adversity. So like the remedy to the adversity is beauty. And so like for me, I'm really drawn to beautiful places because they are very like life-giving, heart resetting. They are they are places that you get to not only like I go there not just to photograph, but to also experience and experiencing those places. It's just really good for the heart.
I think I'm similar in that way with the travel, having to travel somewhere and finding something you can connect with out there that's not your normal surroundings for me is a very big thing. It's travel is a very big motivator for a lot of people and reconnecting with nature and sharing that with everyone.
Right. I think if you break down though the why of travel, it's to break routine. Like it's not so much that like we're all drawn to just go places. I think we're drawn to go places because they break the monotony of life. And it's funny, man. Like I've got two small kids. One of them just walked by on the stairs. But I've got two small kids, and I just read this thing. I guess it was like last week, and it was talking about the importance of family trips together. Even and like vacations is kind of a hard word, I think, for a lot of people because not a lot of people get to take vacations. Their work schedules or money is tight. And I mean it is for all of us. Like we're all living in the same economy here, but it was talking about the importance of like doing things with your kids when they're young, especially between the ages of like 5 and 15. Because it they enlisted like all these reasons why, but one of them that stood out to me a lot was it's a great unifier to go somewhere with your family because like you're breaking your routine. You're not at your desk or you're at work, but you're especially to go somewhere new together. Like if I throw my kids in the car and we drive 3 hours to a town we've never been to go walk around that town and get lunch, we're all experiencing the exact same thing for the first time. And it was talking about how like how good that is for kids to see that like we can have the same experiences even though we're living two very different lives where like I have my career, my job, my daytime routines, they have theirs. I thought that was a really compelling point. I think that's true of like travel in general. Like it can do this thing like when we go places that it breaks the monotony. We get to experience something new, and when we do that with others, it becomes like this unifier, this experience that you all have together. Or if you take somebody somewhere you love, whether it's a restaurant or a location, and you get to watch them come alive to it, like and see it for the first time, it's such a cool experience.
It is, and I read something similar recently. I don't know where it was, but I read it while we were on vacation to the Grand Canyon. We went out to we went out to Williams, Arizona and got married, but we brought the kids with us. Watching the kids experience this, and we talked about it as a family, and my son's like, there are kids at school who don't do these kinds of things with their family. It seems like they're not
Yeah.
close with their family. And
Right.
now he's obsessed with doing things together all the time because
Mm.
he's enjoyed all these family trips over the years.
Yeah, that's
And
cool.
yeah, it's a great thing. And now I see him picking up cameras and stuff and really
Yeah.
trying to emulate. And he outshot me in Arizona with a little Camp Snap camera, man. He murdered with
That's
that
awesome.
camera, man. It's great seeing that kind of unification within a family, but I've also
Yeah.
seen that kind of unification happening within online realms where everybody is almost traveling together digitally and building this kind of community where they may not have it elsewhere. And it
Hmm.
seems like you're a
Yeah.
hub for that community building. A lot of people gravitate towards you and your photography.
Community building is a huge part of what I do. And it's more than just like the YouTube channel. Like I do, I recognize like we have a loneliness epidemic in the world. If you look at studies, like loneliness is higher than ever. I'm in my 40s, and I have to be very proactive myself as someone that rides that line between extrovert and introvert. I have to ride that line to make sure that I have people in my life that I don't, outside of the house, like the homies, like the guys in my life. I got to make sure that I'm keeping that, and it's intentional at my age. You don't have college or something that you're all doing together. You have to be very intentional as you get older to keep friends. And the older I get, the more lonely it can get. And so for that reason, photography is a great unifier. You know what I mean? Like people from all walks of life are into photography. Men and women, doesn't matter your race, religion, creed, any of those things. You have people into photography from every aspect of life, and photography can be a great unifier. And then for me, that drills down a little deeper because my primary camera is a Leica M, which is a different experience, altogether. And so like you drive that down even further, and then that Leica M community is kind of where I hang out. It's not just that. Like there's people that I'm connected with that shoot all kinds of brands, but I do photo walks very often, not just here in my city, but anywhere I go, I try to put together photo walks. And I did one in Zurich back in the fall. It was crazy. Like we're talking about, I was already over I was with Leica at an event in Italy, and then I went up to Zurich because I got booked to do a workshop photo walk event there. So I went and did that. People came to that from as far away as Berlin.
Oh,
They took
wow.
an 8 hour train down. Why? Because they want to connect with people, and this is the closest event that they could come to go do something like that. And they watch me on YouTube, and they're excited to come. But like that blew my mind that people will travel that far for community. And that tells you like how important community is. So if someone's willing to go that far, I did a workshop here in the Bay 2 years ago. We had a guy from DC, a guy from Boston, a guy from Florida, all flew here to hang out in San Francisco for 3 days. And then every workshop I've ever done is sold out, because people they want to get together and do stuff in cool places. And so yeah, community is a huge part of what I do, for those reasons. We also have a Discord, like my brand, which is called Very Good. We have a Discord with 1,000 people on it, which is insane to me. That our Discord channel has 1,000 photographers chatting it up every day about photography, giving each other feedback, planning their own events. Like this is super cool. So community is huge.
How hard has it been for you to organize these events? Do you get sponsors or anything, or is it just you making an announcement and then hanging out?
Yeah, I feel like it's real easy to overthink it. Like a good example is like when I go to LA, which is several times a year, I often will just post on Instagram, if anyone wants to hang, Santa Monica Pier, 6 p.m. You know what I mean? And we'll have 20 people show up. I've been building a mailing list as well, trying to get it geography based, So like I have a SoCal mailing list where if I go to Southern California, which I'm there the most, like outside of my own area, like I'm there in Southern California, probably second to anywhere else I go. Like I just send an email. I think everybody thinks like or it's easy to think that events take a lot of work, but they really don't. You just Here's a time, here's a spot. If you're there, cool, meet me here. If you're not there, see you next time. and then just see what happens. Like, I don't get involved with a ton of logistics. Like we did this photo walk here in San Francisco. I did one through Leica San Francisco last month. We had 240 people register, which was bananas. Like the hundreds, like it was so many people. They came to that photo walk. It looked like we were having a protest in San Francisco. Like it was crazy. Um, and all that came through was three places: the email list, Instagram, and we did an Eventbrite for it as well, just to be able to have people like save the time and date. But it wasn't like I sent two emails, like I sent one email, and we had an Eventbrite up. It was like, and I posted on Instagram maybe three or four times. It wasn't like it was in stories, like I wasn't overthinking it. So yeah, it doesn't take a lot to do these events.
I've been kicking around the idea of doing a negative influence event down in Detroit. I'm in Michigan, and I've been overthinking that process. So hearing you put it in those words, I was like, well, maybe I'll just toss something out there and see what happens.
Yeah, just see what happens.
Yeah, I'm a part of like the local photographer groups and everything where everybody can connect and post mean comments to each other sometimes. But
Yeah.
I've recently become familiar with your work. Chris from Land of the Lonesome recommended I get in contact with you, and then
He's one of my top three favorite photographers.
dude, he's so good,
I
and
started
he's the
I started
nicest
following him
dude.
when he had like a I found him on his Instagram randomly when he had like 1,000 followers, and now he's like, blowing up. But his work is by far, I think, top three favorite living photographers.
Oh man, he's gonna be
Yeah.
so excited to hear that. I know he's gonna watch this and get all giddy about it. But he's a great dude. But because of him, I've experienced your work, and I've binge watched everything over the last week and a half
Oh
or whatever.
gosh.
It's like an alternating between you, Jason, and Bray Hunziker, all
Nice.
just nonstop. But looking at your body of work now, what evolutions have you seen in your photography, even as recently in the last couple of years, that you're looking back at now and you're like, oh, I didn't see this overarching theme that might be going on?
That's a good question. There's like technical things that I could point out that are like going to be consistent across my work. But I like then there's like the thought process that has evolved over the years. I'll speak to that first here. Um, I think now in terms of sequences and galleries more than I think in terms of like the shot. So like now I try to think more in terms of like, okay, I want to create a sequence here, like something that people could experience it, like rather than trying to say, hey, I'm going to get this one photo that tells this one story. I'm thinking more like, I want to tell this story. What do I need to tell that story? And then getting all of those shots and then sequencing those shots in a way that tells that story. So it's like a bigger, for me, like that's just how I'm approaching photography these days. I used to like chase the shot, like I think Instagram primes us to chase the shot, like you see the cliche, like everybody has this photo, you go and you get it, and you have your version of that photo now, and you got the shot. Good job, and I don't like, I've tried to make sure I free my mind of that because it's real easy to do that. That's like easy photography. It's easy to do that. It's hard to show up in a place and say, okay, what is the story today? And how can I tell that story? So I think that thought process wise, that's something that's new for me in the last couple of years is really being intentional with storytelling and sequencing. You kind of pick up that skill more through like looking at photo books than you do looking at social media. And to me, like sequencing is a lost art because the most we ever sequence is a carousel on Instagram. And most of the time, those are just forgetful for all of us. You know what I mean? Because people only have like a 2 second, attention span. But if you pick up a photo book, like I have several on the shelf back here, if you pick up a photo book, you're spending more than 2 minutes looking at it. You're taking your time and you're wandering through it. So yeah, I think that the mindset evolution has been really good for me personally.
The storytelling aspect of photography seems to be coming to the forefront more and more lately. And
Hmm.
seeing people thinking about being intentional and planning out what they're doing and having that vein of thought running through their work, I think that's what's pushing photographers more to the forefront now than those grand, here's the shot, or
Yeah.
here's the token shot of everything. That storytelling seems to be a very important thing, especially in the last several years. And I think it's important that people are talking about it. It's a very
Hmm.
strong thing to recognize because the shot didn't really exist before social media. Everybody had this great body of work that they put
Right,
towards an overall
right.
project. And I think that kind of got lost for a little bit for as far as social media goes. And now it's coming back to social media. And there's so many great photographers doing it on Instagram, on Substack, on Blue Sky, whatever app
Hmm.
they're using. It's
Yeah.
such a powerful thing. And the storytelling is getting so much more interesting, and so many more people are being exposed to it. And I think more people are going to try to emulate and tell stories through their photography.
Yeah, there's this photographer up in the Canadian Rockies, great guy, but he has like he's like an OG Instagram guy, you know, like he posts the same five bangers, you know, and like I think he's part of the reason why that area became so big. But today he's still posting just the same five, seven locations on loop, and he has been since for a decade. And I think sometimes like I'm never one to criticize other people's work. Everybody do what you want. If you're listening, just do what you want, do your thing. But but I do think there's something to be said that like we've seen it at this point, you know, like I don't want anyone to ever look at my work and say, oh, Dave, God, Dave, like we've seen this. Like I don't need to see tunnel view at Yosemite anymore. I get it. You know, I don't need to see Moraine Lake or Lake Louise from the shoreline. That same shot. I've seen it. I'm done. Like we've seen that a million times at this point. I think that where photography is going to, and it's all a pendulum. It's going to swing, like you mentioned before. Instagram, it was storytelling, then it swung over to the shot, the banger. And now I think it's swinging back to storytelling. It'll probably swing back to the banger in the 2030s. Who knows? But I think in this season, people are desiring more from like just like what okay, what have I not seen, what else is there, like. And then also with the rise of AI and like we don't always know what's real anymore, I feel like that storytelling is going to become even more important to communicate, especially in landscape photography, to communicate what a spot actually is, you know, Instagram versus reality. Like I think there's a lot, like we've been hiding the reality for a decade on social media, and I think that the next trend you're going to see is demonstrating the reality, not hiding the reality.
That documentary style of photography seems to be popping up a lot more lately in
Hmm.
circles where I'm familiar with it.
Yeah,
Your work ranges from like, I don't want to say the adventure style landscapes, but you're telling
yeah,
stories
yeah,
through landscapes, but
yeah, yeah, for sure.
you also do the human centered pieces. Is there a like mindset you have to shift between these two styles of photography, or is this something that you just know what you're doing at this point?
No, I mean there definitely is a bit of a mindset to it. Like, I don't do a ton. Like, I feel like in the past 2 years, I've done way more human centered work than prior to the last 2 years. Like, um, I had to figure out who I am from a technical standpoint first. Like, I've been doing photography a long time, but I never really sat down to evaluate. Okay, what if I was looking at my galleries and my library here? What is consistent? So I actually was able to articulate about my work what is consistent no matter what I shoot. So like I kind of know that now. Like I know who I am from a technical standpoint, the things that matter to me in photos, why I like photos X, Y, and Z. Even in other people's work, I shoot the things I like, and it's not even about subject always. It's about like composition and technique. Like I like cityscapes as much as I like landscapes if they have the same boxes checked. Which we can talk about that in a minute. But anyway, the mindset thing, like I do a lot I live near San Francisco. I live in the Bay. So I walk around San Francisco a lot with my camera and just photograph what I see, you know, and that's different than like hiking in the Tetons. You know, it's a different experience. But I do think when I come home, like I hope some of my photos can sit in the same portfolio because I'm embracing some of the same things that I would do in both places. So I think that like to answer your question, the mindset for me isn't so much like shifting from okay, now it's adventure, now it's city, now it's New York City, now it's San Francisco, now it's street photography. It's more like who am I as a photographer? What things matter to me? And wherever I go, am I capturing those things? Am I checking the boxes that tick off this is a Dave shot? no matter what scenario I'm in. And I think learning to do that, and like really I spent like a year studying my own work to figure out those things and finding the consistent themes across everything that I shoot. That was a huge like help in that process for me.
That's refreshing to hear because I've had a lot of these interviews now, and a lot of people talk so much about the mindset shift about based on subject. And to hear somebody talk about it from a technical standpoint is really interesting because that's how I've been thinking about it. And I've been kind of thinking I'm weird for like thinking in those ways. And
Yeah,
I'm like, well, maybe I'm doing it wrong. But I don't think there's really a wrong way for a photographer to do that.
exactly. This is not an issue of right and wrong. It's more of
Yeah.
an issue of like what resonates and how like we all get to the same. Whether okay, so a guy who comes off the mountain and goes into the city and has great photos of both spots, the end result is going to be maybe the same as someone else who comes out of the mountain, goes into the city, gets great photos. But the process to get there can look totally different. For me, that process is very much a technical consistency in the things that matter to me versus like thinking about instead of thinking about like, okay, now I'm shooting street. I have to think about this like a street photographer, and I'm looking for these types of scenarios. Like, as I'll give you a quick example of what I look for. Rarely, if ever, do I have more than three colors in a photo. If you go to look at my street or you look at my landscape or anything that I put out there, very rarely does it have more than three colors, which means that I look for compositions that are minimal in color. So like a green grass, a stone mountain, and a blue sky would be three colors. In a city, a woman wearing a red dress walking in front of a gray building, and there might be some blue graffiti on the wall, three colors. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like that three color thing follows me wherever I'm at, and therefore consistency follows me wherever I shoot. And that's just one of several things that I know about myself that I'm looking for when I go out and shoot. So that kind of technical consistency keeps my work looking like my work.
I find that very interesting that you've taken such a deep look at your work and evaluated it in that way and actually broke it down and studied it. There's a lot of photographers who don't like looking back on their work and reflecting and seeing growth or patterns that may evolve. So I think it is refreshing to hear you talk about it, but it's also inspiring to hear you talk about it because I think other people who listen to this might actually sit down, take a look at their work, and see what their overarching theme is, and find their own voice within their artwork. That's really, I need to do that more.
I was already doing that. I just didn't know until I looked at it that I was doing that. You know what I mean? And like now I can tell you that, okay, I know one of the things I'm drawn to are like three color photos. Like a three color composition is what I'm drawn to. Like I said, I was already doing it. I just didn't know. I couldn't tell you why until I studied my own work. And like the biggest like thing about therapy is knowing yourself. So why do we shy away from that in the arts? Like, dude, you should know yourself. You should know yourself. Like, how can you like if you don't know your own starting points, how can you grow? Or how can you measure your growth? How can you look back and say, you know what, this year, man, I really stepped it up. I really grew. I really challenged myself. If you don't know where you are here, you'll never be able to say those things with any like real authenticity. So yeah, take time to know yourself, know like study your own work. Like that's such a gift to yourself versus like some people might feel like it's like, well, I don't want to look at my work. It feels prideful or arrogant. No, not at all. That's dumb. Like dive into your work. It's the only way. Like there's this book called A Question of Color. It's by Joel Meyerowitz, and he talks about he was photographing in the transition between black and white and color photography. So he would go out and shoot black and white and color in unison and try to evaluate which one he liked more and why. That book, it's not, you can read that book in 2 hours. It's not a long book. It's mostly just like essays and interviews with examples. But he talked about in that book how him and one of his friends, I forget who it was, they would go out and shoot. They'd get their photos developed. Then they were slides. So then they would put them in a slide projector on the wall, and they would sit there and tear each other apart, basically. Like criticize them, talk through them, evaluate them, what worked, what didn't. Like, we don't do that anymore. You know what I mean? Like, how did Joel Meyerowitz become such a iconic photographer? Because he spent the early days sitting down with his work on the wall, studying it with his buddy, and figuring out what worked and what didn't. You know, that's a lost art that we should embrace more as photographers.
You mean we shouldn't just put pray hands and hands up photos in everybody's Instagram post and tell them it's great when it's not?
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of backslapping going on. You brought up the three color thing. I watched one of your videos recently where it was talking about how you can affect and convey emotions through color, which I found really interesting. And I started evaluating my work, like my color work from that. And I never thought about it until you put it in those terms about color affecting the emotions of people. Like, I
Yeah.
understand blue usually conveys sad or like lonesome, and warm is more like happy, fun time. But
Right.
evaluating that within my own photography, it's not something I really did, if that makes sense. It's I appreciated the
Yeah.
colors, but I didn't realize the storytelling that could be done through color. And it was
hmm
interesting to hear that take on it.
Sunlight and earth tones make us feel a certain way. We feel almost like a an instinctual connection. That's why we love. That's why people love the bangers, because like it's earth tones and pretty sky and sunlight. You know, go to that same spot on a rainy day and people don't resonate with it. Like, you know what I mean? Like we just feel differently. There's this photographer from LA, Bill Brown, good friend of mine. I was walking with him around Hollywood and we were talking about just like the lost art of evaluation. And because I mean he's a generation further down the road than I am with photography. He's been doing it a long time and he's got a very like totally different body of work than I do. We don't shoot anything the same, right? Um, he actually he told me this quote by uh, Cartier-Bresson that about Ansel Adams, and this quote when he told me this quote, I was like, is he insulting me? But he said, because you know, like Bresson is like the most one of the most iconic street photographers. I mean, he basically is the father of street photography. Ansel Adams is kind of the father of landscape photography, right? And these guys were in the same time period, so they existed and they were photographing in the same period. And Bresson said the world is falling to pieces, and Adams is out here photographing rocks. And when Bill told me that, I was like, is Bill like, because Bill does very people centered photography. He'll go out into an LA riot in the middle of it and shoot it. He also shoots a lot of underground LA life, which is wild stuff. I'm like, if I'm outside and it's dark, it's because I'm waiting for the sunrise at a mountain, you know? Bill goes out at 3 a.m. and finds the underbelly of LA. So like, so we do different things. And that really matters to him. But where I was going with this is he got trained under some very prominent thinkers in photography and he was dropping their wisdom on me. And he was telling me, I think it was a conversation with Eggleston. And he was like, what do you think about this photo? And well, and immediately he started evaluating the technical side of it. Okay, well, the light is here, like, and he's like, no, 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 no. How does it make you feel? Like, how does it feel? Right. And like that mentality, like we are, especially photographers, we're so quick to evaluate the technical of every photo. That's important, I think, of your own work, so you understand yourself, right? Like I do. Like I've evaluated my technicals to know what I'm doing, right? So for myself to know why I do what I do. But when I'm looking at other people's work, I'm just asking myself, like, how does it make me feel, right? Sunlight and earth tones make me feel a certain way. Black and white and gray make me feel another way. Red makes me feel a different way. Red and black in a photo, like a red and black photo, makes me feel uneasy. Why? Because of the color. Like there's an emotional response from red and black together that doesn't feel peaceful. It feels almost like intimidating and dark. And you see what I'm saying? Like there's so many emotions connected to color. And if we are thinking about those colors when we are photographing, we can start to control the emotional experience that the viewer is going to have. So it's just a deeper level of intentionality.
That controlling the emotional response thing is what I think every photographer is trying to convey when they're actually storytelling with their photography. And I think a lot of photographers, well, I don't want to say a lot, some photographers are looking at that post shooting And I think if they thought of that during the actual act of
Yeah.
making a photograph, that might be a way to elevate their work even.
Well, it comes down to like, when do you want, like, we all do the work, right? When do you want to do the work? Do you want to do it when you're out shooting, or do you want to do it when you're sitting at the computer? I prefer to do the work when I'm out shooting. So when I'm at the computer, I don't have to do all that. Like, I'm not going through 2,000 photos from one composition that I shot. I'm not I'm not pop, 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 like, especially shooting film. Like, if you're a film photographer, you can't do that unless you
No.
are just like independently wealthy or self-funded, but like, it's almost like a return to the old ways, like, don't overshoot. Well, how do you not overshoot? It's by doing the work of composing right the first time, and not thinking I'll fix it in post, or when I get home I'll figure out the best composition, like whatever. Cropping has also hurt us in that way. When I use a 60 megapixel camera, I can do whatever I want. And then I also have a X2D that I was given by Hasselblad, like, that's 100 megapixels. I literally can that I can do whatever I want. Like, but what that does is it can make you a lazy photographer. It can make you not do the work because you're thinking, oh, I'll just take this and I'll crop in, when I could have walked 20 feet and cropped with my feet. It's better to do the work when you're out making the photo than it is to do it at the computer in post.
I've started doing that over the last year of trying to get the shot right in camera. And I feel like that's something that's helped me a lot with my composition. Because in my photography, I know something for me that I technically need in every photo is good composition. I
Mhm.
don't like the style of, I don't like the blurry photos with like a lot of motion blur and stuff. I like the well composed, a lot of leading lines. That's my style, and I know that. And capturing those things in camera has saved the shutter on numerous numbers of my cameras because I used to overshoot horribly, especially with family shoots, wedding shoots, because
Yeah.
that's like my day job. I think working with film and not wanting to ruin every shot because film's expensive and I didn't want
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
ruin
Yeah.
that. And that's translated to digital now to where I'm coming home with
Mhm.
exponentially less photos from digital shoots because of working with film.
Right.
You also blend film and digital.
Yep. Yep.
And do you think that one format can amplify the other for you?
I think that there are techniques on each that I think have a lot of value to help you get better or just think about things more intentionally. One thing I love about film is not thinking about the exposure as much, because if you get it wrong in digital, you're screwed. But if you get it wrong on film, probably not that big of a deal because film is very forgiving. I just shot a event in San Francisco this past Saturday, so 4 days ago. I did it on film and digital. I took both camera. I took both my M11 and my M6 out for the day, right? And shot the same event. Got the photos, digital photos and the film photos, all kind of side by side, and like, they feel different in many ways. But I did it. I actually shot a video on this. It comes out next week. But
Oh, cool.
I concluded something from this though. I shot SantaCon. Do you know what SantaCon is?
I do not, but it sounds interesting.
Okay. Okay. They happen in big cities all over the world, or at least in some big cities all over the world. Like, London has a SantaCon, New York has a SantaCon, San Francisco has a SantaCon. Basically, what it is, thousands of people dress up as Santa. They do a rally somewhere in the city, and then they all go get trashed in the bars
I was hoping that's what this was.
all day, like day drinking. 1 o'clock, Santa's getting lit. Like, it was such a fun event because the rallies really, and the one in San Francisco was in Union Square, which is kind of like our heart of our city. Big Christmas tree in front of Macy's, ice skating rink, all that, and then but they do it as a toy drive, right? So like, the fire department's there receiving toys, thousands of people dressed up like Santa or Mrs. Claus or the Grinch or some 2025 Instagram variant of those things. And I saw some stuff. Okay, I saw some stuff. And it was a ton of fun. Okay. But when I was looking at the photos and evaluating them, what resonated with me, my favorite photos had nothing to do with film and digital. It wasn't like the film ones felt this way, the digital ones. You know what it had to do with? It had to do with the moment that I got. So like one of my favorite photos, someone was walking around with a wand with mistletoe hanging from it, and they would hold it up above random people. Okay. I got a photo on my M6 of this random couple kissing, and it was like a passionate kiss. And I just was there. So I snapped it off. Right. I love that shot. I would have loved it on digital as much as I love it on film. It's irrelevant. The medium was irrelevant. The the photo made me feel a certain way, and that's what matters. And so the video kind of like, spoiler alert, the video kind of concludes that whether you shoot film or digital is almost irrelevant. The moment is what we should be chasing. So there are techniques that help each other out with film and digital. You'll learn some things on one that you won't learn on the other, and vice versa. But ultimately, what matters is the moment, and it has nothing to do with the format you shot it in.
Thank you so much for this because I'm gonna go off on a little tangent here.
Please do.
Recently, I got accused of being a digital photographer bigot. Bigot is the word they used.
What a weird insult.
If he would have called me like an asshole or something, it would have made way more sense. I'm like, okay, yeah, I agree with that. But I'm a digital photographer professionally. That's what I do professionally for professional work and make money from. And to have somebody who doesn't understand that you can be critical of either digital or film and still enjoy and use both. And
Mhm.
I just feel like I got backed up a little bit with that story you told. So I'm feeling a little like patting myself on the back right here. But
Heck yeah.
I don't like that tribalism between film and digital. And I've been outspoken against that tribalism. But I will be critical against either one
Yeah.
if I see something in either community that I'm like, I don't agree with that. I don't like how this is
Yeah.
going down. It's unhealthy, and I like to promote a healthy work environment.
100%. I'm in my, like I said, I'm in my 40s. I started photography when there wasn't digital. Like, I remember I got my first digital camera in 2005. I had been doing photography since the 90s. Like, I was into photography in the 90s. So, like, um, it's funny because digital was like, oh my God, this is so much easier. Like, instant gratification, no more 1 hour photo. Like, I wish they had 1 hour photo today. That'd be bomb if they brought that back. Instead, I gotta wait 3 days at the lab. But anyway, like there definitely is a bit of an arrogance out there. I feel like, especially I see it more in the film photography community than I do in as if like they're doing something that other people can't do, and it's like, nah, man, like the photo is all that matters. How you got there, I don't give a shit about. All that matters is the photo, and your portfolio is your greatest defense or your greatest like shame. Like there's this Reddit community, Analog Circle Jerk. Are you familiar with that community?
Yeah, man. That neighborhood scares me.
This is a group of the absolute worst photographers in America, just trashing other people. And then you go like if I sometimes I just chase down like I chase down who said something, and I try to find who they are and look at their work. And I have found some of them before, and it's straight like shameful and embarrassing. Like, and I'm a positive person. It's hard for me to say anything negative about anybody, but like, there definitely is this culture where like, it's like, well, I shoot film, or, oh, you're shooting film, like, and it's like none of that matters. If your photos don't feel, if I don't feel anything from your photos, I don't care how you got it. Like, and that's what it comes down to. It's feeling. It doesn't matter the format.
Even within the film community, it's funny watching the beef. Like, there'll be a 35 millimeter photographer who's like, "Oh yeah, I shoot film," and then there's somebody with a Pentax 6.7 who's like, "Well, I shoot medium
Yeah,
format,"
right.
and then there's
Oh
the
yeah,
what's
yeah,
his
yeah,
Ian that made a box truck camera, and he just drives up
yeah,
and shoots an entire scene with a box truck. it's
yeah. It's
it's funny
awesome.
watching the pissing matches online.
Yeah, and it's all irrelevant at the end of the day. The photo,
It is.
the end result is what matters, and 99% of the people that see that photo don't care how you made it. They just care about how that photo makes them feel.
And it's usually other photographers who are the ones with semantics over the style
Yeah,
format.
exactly.
It's
Right.
we're our own worst enemies, and we need to not do that.
One thing I think that's been it was so helpful for me in the early days of YouTube, especially when I first got started, because man, people can be mean. I don't know if you know this or not, but comments, man, like my God, comments on YouTube are sometimes the Redditors show up, like they just come out. And it used to bother me, like, and especially in the beginning, because I know, like, I'm a positive person. I make positive videos. Like, I'm not out there shitting on people. I'm not, that's not who I am. But then people would just say the worst things in the comments. And I had to remind myself, like, this person was never going to be my subscriber.
No.
This person was never going to be a customer of my shop. They were never going to come to a workshop I do. So, like, have I lost anything? No. So that's when I started trolling them back.
Do you use some of the hate you get in the comments for like some of the videos or inspiration for things you do just to like poke the bear a
No,
little
not
bit?
really. Not really. Sometimes I screenshot them and share them on Instagram when they're really funny. Um, but what I did for the longest time, for like the first year of my YouTube channel, when I would get a nasty comment, I would just write back, "Hey man, I hope you heal." And like that was always fun for me to just like drop some type of sarcasm or snark back. But I don't even do that anymore. Now I just block and move on.
I've went directly to the block and move on because I haven't gotten
Yeah.
all that much hate, but the hate I've gotten has been aggressive.
I shoot a Leica, so the hate writes itself.
Yeah, man. Have you been torn apart in analog circle jerk a few times?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I didn't even know that community existed until I had a video get posted over there. I did a video about imposter syndrome and how easy it is to have it, and like some tips to overcome it, and they just tore it apart. It was funny though. I was just reading their comments, and they all came over to the video and were leaving comments too. I hope they all heal.
I'm gonna cut that for a clip to this episode because I think it'll be a good one. I'll share it to TikTok. I'll share it right to Circle
Nice,
Jerks.
nice.
So you have a history, a therapeutic history. You said.
Yeah, yeah.
Has that helped you with your relationship with social media? Because so many people can get obsessed with the numbers or what people think of their work. Has that helped
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
look back and reflect on it?
Yeah, social media has no emotional weight in my life. Like, I do, or no, let me rephrase that. Social media has no negative emotional weight in my life. It does have positive weight in my life. Like, of course, it feels great when someone affirms what you do, but when someone doesn't like, first of all, I don't get negative comments really on Instagram, except for whenever a brand and I do a collaboration together, and the brand is getting negative comments, or not mine, but like I did a reel with Hasselblad, right? And Hasselblad did that reel. And also Leica has done like 9 or 10 posts of mine on the Leica US. I'm sorry, on the Leica global account, Leica camera. Sometimes those will get negative comments because people don't like the brand. It has nothing to do with me, or they'll criticize me because they don't like the brand. You know what I mean? Those don't have any weight on me. So Instagram, I really don't get negative comments. All the negative stuff I get is on YouTube or cross posted somewhere else, and from a YouTube video. And I just go back to that thing. Yeah, man, these were never going to be my subs. They were never going to be my customers. They were never going to come to my workshops or meetups. So what have I lost? Nothing. And so like I would weigh on me if it was somebody that was a sub, was a customer, and they felt like they had a bad experience, so they converted away from it. That would bother me. But I have not had that experience. The closest thing I've had to that experience, which this isn't even close, is like Patreon. People might be a Patreon member for a while and then they're not. And I'm like, what did I do? Like, but I mean, I didn't do anything. It's just, I don't know their situation, their financial situation, or maybe they're not just interested anymore. That's totally fine. Um, but the things that, again, the things that like on social media that are negative, they have zero effect on my life other than I think they're funny.
They really are. I like when somebody gets a really good one in on me, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'll like that comment. That was a good one.
Yeah.
Because I enjoy a good trash talking. Like, I like bantering and talking shit with the friends.
Yeah,
And
same. I mean, I'm a
yeah,
sarcastic person. I like trolling a little bit too. Like it's fun. So, but then I have to just determine, like, okay, like one time back when I was doing the "Hey man, I hope you heal" kind of responses, I got a long email from someone that was like, "I have a mental health issue. How dare you say that?" And it was like 1,500 words. I had to have Chat GPT summarize it for me because it was so long. Um, but like I was like, okay, obviously, this guy came at me. I said, I hope you heal as a way to just troll him back, and he lost his mind. So that's when I quit doing that. I was like, okay, I don't have energy to get these kind of emails. So yeah, it's hit or miss. But I mean, I do love a good smack talk. I love it. It's fun.
especially if it doesn't involve me. That's even better. But
Yeah.
so we talked about the evolution you've seen over the last brief period of history or over your career. What are some evolutions that you're trying to move towards in the future that you're thinking about?
As I'm looking ahead at 2026, you know, photography is it is a moving target in your life. You know, you never hit it. You just are always chasing it. Like you might get the shot, but then like what's the next shot? So I mean, like it's kind of fun. Like the chase is more fun than the arrival. And so I'm always gonna be chasing, you know, better, like for me, bigger, better projects that I'm passionate about. Trying to figure out like how to do things from a technical standpoint or from a creative standpoint better, being in better places at the right time. Like there's a whole art and craft to like being at the right place at the right time and anticipating the moment, not just being there for the moment, but like anticipating the moment. So I don't know, some of that stuff I think is going to play a role in my evolution in this next year. But then in the YouTube world, like from a strategic creative like standpoint, I'm shifting the kind of videos I'm making a little bit next year. I've already laid out my first quarter, and what kind of videos I'm going to make, and I'm really going to start like speaking a little more about like the heart of being a photographer and less about like the gear of like using like the technical side of photography. So of course I'll have gear videos mixed in, but gear videos work really well on YouTube. People love gear videos, and so it's tempting to just do them over and over. But I didn't start YouTube to be a gear guy. I started YouTube to speak more because of my background with like working with people, like from a emotional or like mental heart like standpoint instead of like the gear. I feel like it's time to start really like being like who I wanted to be in the beginning. And so there's definitely an evolution on the horizon and coming like my schedule with videos I'm planning to make and things I'm going to speak about that are just very much pointed at like the heart of photography, not so much like the gear.
I really love to hear that because the reason I started this podcast is because, yeah, there's some great photography podcasts out there and some of them ended too soon, but it seems like a lot of them are very gear based or gear breakdown or too much mudslinging about brands and stuff. And I wanted to talk to people who were interested in talking about the mindset and heart behind photography and just sitting down and bullshitting with people, legitimately having a conversation where everybody knows that everybody struggles or everybody knows that everybody lacks inspiration sometimes. So I really like to hear that about what you're doing for your first quarter.
I'm super pumped about it. I'm going to be speaking on topics that really are like pointed at almost like the human condition. Like we are human and we bring our humanity into our art. And then our art has this positive or negative effect on our humanity. So it's like it's a cycle, you know, like we were just talking about it. Like how do we feel whenever we get comments, right? That's the humanity part of us, right? So the relationship we have with what with our art as photographers or filmmakers or whatever, you know, working with cameras, like that relationship must be nurtured, fostered, and fed in a way that allows it to grow, but grow in a healthy way. Like if I just give my kids Oreos nonstop, they're not going to be healthy. So we have to. So any parent is intentional with their kids' diets. You know, um, that same level of intentionality I'm going to try to bring to how I talk about photography and what I'm feeding people through YouTube. So yeah, it's definitely a huge risk. My numbers might completely fall off. I've had good numbers. They might be gone quarter one,
Nah,
but we'll
man,
see.
I don't think it's gonna. I think it's gonna be. I think you're gonna get a whole new wave of people that come in. You might have those few people drop off, but I think people are getting tired of just the gear reviews because it seems like a piece of gear will come out and then a lot of the
Yeah,
YouTubers drop the same video at the same time about the same gear.
100%. Yeah, and I've been part of that. Like I've been part of that. Like Leica brought 30 of us to Italy to showcase a new camera, and we all made a video, and that video came out on embargo day. You know what I mean? Like I've been part of those things, and like I will probably continue to be part of some of those things. But I just don't have the passion to be a gear guy forever. Like I'm happy if it helps empower you to talk about gear, But what I don't have the passion or energy for is to constantly be trying to chase down the latest lens, the latest camera, the latest tech, the latest software, all those things. I just don't have the energy for it.
That's good. I like that you're going to be doing more storytelling and doing more things you want to do because you can tell when somebody loses passion for something that they're working on. It becomes cyclical and predictable. And I think more people speaking out to the style of photography that you enjoy and want to do in this just enjoying what you do is so important. And a lot of
Hmm.
creators, especially on YouTube, don't enjoy what they're doing. They're just trying to meet those metrics that get them what they
Yeah.
want at the end of the day.
Right.
And to take a
Right.
risk like that, I think a lot of people will come out of the woodwork and support you. And a lot of people are going to be much more interested in that aspect of it, especially the people who've been with you for a long time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I hope so. Like I'm in a unique position also, like, because I don't rely on brand deals and those things to sustain my life. Like my shop, which is like color grades, and we just launched a camera strap, like the shop that I started, and now I have a team of 5 with that shop. Like that is what pays the bills. That's what makes the channel work. And it's like I don't rely on those metrics. You know what I mean? Like I don't have to prove myself to some company that wants to spend money to reach my audience. Like I've taken some brand deals, but for the most part, I just say no to them because I don't need them. Like I don't want to have to deal with like trying to make a case for why I have this value or whatever. Like I know what my shop's doing, and I just keep focusing on that and letting YouTube be a place where I can do whatever I want, because growing on YouTube grows the shop, but it grows the shop with people that actually care about what I'm doing versus like, bringing people over from other brands that don't care. That's why I was saying like those people that are negative, they were never going to be my customer. So
Yep.
like they were never going to buy a product from my shop. So it's like, what does it matter if they are writing a nasty comment? They were never going to be part of this ecosystem anyway. So block and move on. They're gone.
We were talking about almost photography as a language, basically, like conveying emotion, which is what language does.
Hmm.
And is there something in your photography that you think you're still trying to say with your photography and you just don't know how to yet?
Yeah, that's a good question. No, no, I definitely don't have it figured out yet. I think that like the kind of stuff I love to photograph, I think my favorite stuff is like the remains of, this sounds weird when I say it, but like human remains, like, but not dead bodies, but like the remains of humanity. Like, I love traveling to ghost towns. I love looking for things that are like historical in the sense that like a person had a life here, but they don't anymore. Like a good example of this, I was shooting in the desert of California in this little town, right? It's technically not a ghost town because there are 40 people that live there. But at one point, this was a huge mining town, and most of the town is abandoned. Cars, buildings, homes, the whole mine is abandoned. I mean, it's a cool town. And the last time it was probably updated was in the 50s. So the most modern buildings in the town are from the 50s. Everything else is from the 1800s through the 50s. And so I was out there walking around, and California's got a very dark history with mining, right? A lot of racism in the mines with Chinese people. A lot of just a lot of dark stuff, right? Especially on the desert, lawlessness in the desert. And while people were living in this town, there were Chinese workers at the mine who didn't live in the town. They lived in what are called dugouts, which is basically when a person would dig a hole in the side of, like, just using mining techniques, would dig a cave essentially out of the side of the mountain or side of the hill, and they would literally live in a cave, right? So I was walking through this town, and this woman comes up to me, and it's always kind of sketchy in ghost towns when people approach you because some of them don't know why you're there or what you're doing. There's another town in California called Keeler. Um, Keeler's close to Lone Pine, which is not a ghost town, but it's a historic town. Keeler's like 15 minutes from there, and it is a ghost town, completely abandoned. Maybe I think 6 people live there. There's an active post office there, which is weird for those 6 people, but the whole town is abandoned. But those 6 people, like I've been out there before with photo groups. Like I've hosted photo walks in Keeler, and we've had people come up and they're like, "Are you with the government? What are you doing here?" Like freaking out on us because they want to know why we're out there, right? So anytime in a ghost town and people are coming up, it's always like I'm on alert, you know. But this woman came up to me in this one town I was just talking about, and she was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" So I was like, "I photograph like historical places, especially here in California and also in the Northern Plains and out in the West." But I was like, I photograph historical places. It's a passion of mine. And I also love preserving the story because I recognize many of these things won't be here by the time my kids are my age. So, like, sure, they've lasted this long, but I don't think they're going to last another 20, 30 years. So, she was like, "Oh, that's awesome. There's a place I want to tell you about." So she told me about a Chinese dugout. I would have never known about this place because it was like it's not in the town. It was outside of town a little bit. She was like, "There's a Chinese dugout. If you follow the wash, which is like where the water would run if it rains, follow the wash. You can drive down the wash right now because there's no water." She was like, "Drive down in the wash." I was in an SUV, so I could drive. But she was like, "Look for this landmark. And then on the right, there's some old Chinese dugouts. And one of them has a piano in it." I was like,
Oh,
"What?" So I went down there. I found it. Sure enough, there was an old piano inside of it's like a cave, and there's an old piano in there. At some point, somebody put a couch in there too, but it's like a modern couch, or like from the 90s, right? But like it's got trash in it. But like photographing an old piano inside of a Chinese dugout in the middle of the desert, in the middle of a ghost town, in the middle of nowhere, that's pretty damn cool. You know what I mean? Like, so chasing that kind of stuff is like the stuff I'm passionate about. And also, when you see a photo of a piano in a cave with a 90s couch beside it, you probably have more questions than that photo is going to answer for you. And I love stuff like that. Like that's the kind of stuff I'm chasing and trying to chase. Um, One thing I love about Chris's photography, you know, is just all over the Northern Plains, right? Finding all these cool buildings. I've actually photographed a lot of those places myself over the years. So seeing his like photography there is really cool for me because I've been to a lot of those places. But I also worked with some ranchers out there who have like places on their property that you can only get to with like a 4x4 or something, you know. And so I was with this one family. I'm trying to remember if this was in South Dakota or if it was in Wyoming. I don't remember. I think it was in Wyoming, but it was near the South Dakota border. But her family had 10,000 acres,
whew.
and um, and the land they lived on was originally settled by like her great great grandfather who came there on the Oregon Trail. And she's in her 60s, and she's got me at her property, showing me the first like we got on the 4x4 and we went to his first house, the house that he built with his hands when he settled, coming out on a covered wagon. And they had the wagon still also. Um, it was crazy what they had. But we got on the 4x4. She took me way back in the property. I was like, I don't know this woman. She's a rancher in her 60s. Am I coming home? She about to bury me out. I've seen enough Yellowstone and 1923 and 1880, whatever those shows. I'm like, I don't mess with these ranchers. The California guy doesn't mess with the ranchers. But we go back there, and sure enough, like the house that this guy built is still there. But the top half's gone. It's caved in, but the bottom half's still there. And it wasn't big. It was just humbly built by this guy's hands. Um, then she showed me the like his children built the first barn on the property, still there. Their kids built the second barn on the property, which is really big, which is the barn she as a child played in when she was little. They put a basketball court in the barn in the upstairs. It's crazy. So I photographed the basketball court in the barn. I mean, it's not like regulation, but you know what I mean. Like they could play basketball in the barn. Like, and she's in her 60s now. When she was a kid, she played in this barn, right? And under that barn, they had the original wagon that he came out on, still sitting there for 100 years, been sitting there. Um, that's crazy. Like, I love photographing this kind of stuff because there is a deep, rich history, and it's not my history. Right, that's not my family, but she's fifth or sixth generation, I think, fifth or sixth generation there now. Her children didn't stay. Her children left, so she's the last one. When she's gone, her kids will inherit 10,000 acres, and they'll probably sell it. I don't know, but my generation is her kids, and my generation didn't stay in the Northern Plains. Everyone left. So that's one of the reasons I'm drawn to it to photograph it now because they left. Like there's no young people didn't stick around. There's no jobs there. There's no life there. There's no future there. Um, so I love photographing that and the stories that are there. So I'm gonna keep chasing for me personally into this next year stories like that and photographing things that preserve some history that I think is going to be gone in the next generation. And also like I find it super interesting. So I love that stuff.
I live on a generational farm. Is where I live. It's my wife's family's property, and at one point it was like 300 acres, I think. So nothing massive, but big for Michigan. And the outside property around us that was in the family since the 1870s was recently sold off by the generation of children. So now and they're talking about putting in subdivisions, and and it's just
Right.
there's so much historical stuff that's going to be lost by that. And the
Yeah.
barn on the property is starting to rot through the floorboards. It's and I've been documenting this farm over the last
That's
2 or 3
awesome.
years and focusing on it. But it's just sad to see, man. It's like I
Yeah.
appreciate history, so I love history. I will
Hmm.
dig on Wikipedia for hours about historical events and then track
Yeah.
down sources and everything. And much like you, I like shooting human remains. But
Yeah. I love it when I tell people that because they're like, what?
yeah,
Like the remains of humanity.
the evidence of where humans were at one
Yes.
point.
Yeah.
But
Right. Right.
it's very interesting to me, and that seems to be a common thread among photographers, especially photographers out in the American West, because I feel like there's more remains out there that were left behind as people moved further west, and the
Yeah.
Dust Bowl and all of that. It's
Right.
We don't have a lot of that here. It's just the farmers' families who gave up on farming. So pretty much
Yeah.
all we have are the dilapidated barns and the leftover remains of that.
The tolerance for history in the US isn't very high. So like when things stop being useful or practical and we need those resources, whether it's the land under those things or the materials in that building, we'll tear it down and redo it. That's why downtowns in every city in America just suck. Like there's no history anymore. Like everything's modern, fresh, and new. Then one thing is like when you look at photos of San Francisco from the early 1900s, and you look, none of the buildings are the same. Like you can't hardly find, other than some of the homes, you can't find. Now, granted, there was an earthquake that destroyed a lot, but the point I'm making is you can go to any town in America, and the train stations are gone. They've been turned into other things, but like here in the West, when you get away from the resource centers like the big cities, things don't get touched as much. Like the Northern Plains are a perfect example of preserved history. Like I love photographing the Northern Plains because they were the last part of America settled. I don't know if you knew that or not, but like the very final part of America, the land that was settled was the Northern Plains because of conflict. They couldn't settle it because they couldn't happily live there because there was so much conflict with the indigenous people. So you're talking about settlements that happened between 1900 and 1930. So the cities out there are a little newer, and two generations in, they started going down in population. By 3 and 4 generations in, they're gone. A lot of empty towns, a lot of abandoned homesteads, and it's dry. Doesn't it goes from dry and hot to covered in snow to dry and hot. They don't have a chance to rot like things on the East Coast. Like I'm from the East Coast originally. Humidity will tear everything apart.
Oh
You're in
yeah.
Michigan. Humidity tears things. It rots everything. There's no humidity in the Northern Plains. Like we don't have a ton of it here in California. Like I can go out in the desert and all year long it's just dry and buildings sit there for 100 years, not changing, other than just people picking away at the resources. But so there's opportunities to photograph here in the West. And when you get away from people, like the Northern Plains don't have a lot of graffiti because there's no people, right? So like I photographed a school on someone's property in Wyoming. It was a school that it was through another rancher. She took me to the school that's on her family's land. It closed during World War II because the teacher, the schoolmaster, was drafted into the war and they shut this he left, and so there was no teacher, and that was the last time the school had been open. Think about that. This school was built in the 1900s, lasted 40 years, and now has been sitting there since the 40s, with nobody there. But the desks are still in there. The books are
Ooh,
still in there. The curtains on the windows are still in there. The blackboard is still up with writing on it. Nobody's graffitied it.
that's like finding a unicorn.
It is. And a lot of the places I photographed, I had to agree to never disclose the location. But like, there's no graffiti on that school. Nobody's come into that school. It's unlocked. Nobody's come into that school and like taken things out of it. It's on her family's land. To get to it is a dirt road and then a walk. And the walk has rattlesnakes. You have to pay attention. And like, you know what I mean? But that is incredible. That is a very special thing to be able to get a chance to photograph. I'll send you some photos of this place.
Yeah,
It's
send it to
amazing.
me. I'm really interested
But
in this.
but like that's the kind of work that I'm really focused on when it comes to like real personal work. And so I definitely plan to keep chasing that stuff down this next year.
Now I'm thinking about like I can picture that school in my head, but I guarantee it doesn't match up to the actual photos of it. Because around here, it's a lot of metro area. There's the Detroit metro area, there's Lansing and then
Yeah.
Grand Rapids, and that's about it. And then as you go
Right.
further north up into like the UP and stuff, there wasn't a lot of settling. Even like the old, I like stuff from the 50s and 60s a lot. That's my thing. And even a lot of those are the old resorts along Highway 2 and the UP are torn down now. All the old motels are gone, and they're just putting up these modern brutalist hotels along this scenic coastline. When we went out to Arizona recently, I was just so excited at the possibility of finding things I've seen other people shoot the same style of photography in a landscape I'm not used to. And I
Mm,
fell in love with it. And now
right.
I'm back in the ice planet Hoth of Michigan under a foot of snow.
I love snow.
Dude, oh man,
Unless I go to the mountains, I don't get to see it.
really, dude. I look, I
Yeah.
look out the window and it's just a nightmare.
I live here in the Bay Area. It's foggy, but we don't have snow. But I mean, I do go to the Sierras every winter, which is only like 3 hours away, and I'm in 10,000 feet elevation and beautiful snowy mountains. So I mean, it's different.
Yeah,
Like,
I got snowy
yeah, it's cool
cornfields,
stuff.
corn and soybeans,
Nice.
flat snow. So it's kind of hard to make that interesting. So I'm hunting down those barns now. I'm like, where are they at, man? I need some kind of height in this photo.
That's awesome.
I documented a chestnut farm in Michigan. It's like 7 miles down the road from my house, and it's actually in my wife's family.
Oh, that's cool.
They've lived on this land since the late 1800s, and it's transitioning from being mostly corn and soybeans to being chestnut and hazelnut. So it's a whole new kind of crop that's came in the last 20 years. It's really interesting to see these farmers be so passionate about this. And I had no idea about
Hmm.
farming. I just knew that was something I could photograph. But
Yeah,
hearing the
that's
family's
cool.
history and everything, I put together a Substack article about it, and people loved that article because it was storytelling and
Yeah,
like it wasn't even my normal style of photography. It was more the documentary style of photography. It's
yeah,
it was such a curveball for me, and it was so much fun.
that's so cool. Yeah, like storytelling is what wins people over.
It is. It really is. And I don't know if you're familiar with Substack.
Yeah, a little bit. I follow some news people on Substack, but that's
Yeah.
about it.
There's a good photography community on Substack that
Oh, nice.
I only recently discovered, and being able for me writing is a strong point. So being able to combine writing with these images for me it's I really like that. It's almost like having your own personal magazine where you can put these little photo
Yeah.
books or weekly articles out, and it's always been about storytelling for me. And I used to tell stories just through words. And now that I'm incorporating the images with these, it's like I didn't realize I
Hmm.
could join these two things for some reason. And now that I've
Yeah,
recently
that's super
discovered that
cool.
in the last year and a half, 2 years, it's like a breath of fresh air and making me more passionate about the storytelling aspect.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I got one more for you here.
All right, let's do it.
Is there a season of your photographic life that you look back on as especially formative?
I think when I put down the high-tech mirrorless camera and picked up a Leica M, it changed everything about how I shoot. Not just in terms of pace in which I shoot, but subject the subjects that I like was actually trying to shoot. I like going from film in the 90s and early 2000s to struggling digital cameras in the beginning to computers with lenses by the time we got to 2020 to then swinging the pendulum back over to a slow, intentional, very like fully manual process. Really like, and you don't have to do this with a Leica. You can do this with any, like, especially with film, you can do it with any camera. But the process of now relying fully on that style of photography rather than I still have a couple of Sony cameras, but I use them as video cameras. Like they're what make the channel. I don't use them for photography. Haven't used them for photography in years. Well, one of them I never used for photography because it's a video camera. But point I'm making is that shift almost back to the old ways of how I shot when I got started, but now with 20 something years of experience, man, like that was like an awakening for me where things that I would have never shot before, like some stuff in like street photography or some of the things that like that I found interesting or things that I didn't find interesting 5 years ago or 7 years ago. Today, I'm like, that is really cool. Like certain moments, like chasing the moment rather than the banger, or having to work harder for the shot, or actually being okay with something being a little out of focus. Because I am today. I'm super fine. If the moment's cool, if it's not perfectly in focus, it's a keeper. Because if you go back and you look at old photo books, 90% of it's soft focus. They don't care. That was about the moment, and that. So the season, probably about pandemic time during the lockdown when I really started just going full in on slower manual photography was crazy formative for me for today.
Well, I think I am out of questions, man. And it's been an honor. This was a great talk. I had a good time. I didn't even have to rely on my notes all that much. It just flowed like a normal
Oh
conversation.
man.
Thank you for being a normal human that
Yeah.
can have a
Dude, thank
conversation, man.
well, thank you for having me on here, man. I'm super honored to be part of this. This is super cool.
I really appreciated this. This was great. And I look forward to seeing more of your work and learning more about you because you're
Oh,
relatively new to me
thanks.
and you seem like a cool guy, man.
Appreciate it.
All right. Have a
Thank you
good
so
night,
much,
man.
man.
Yep. Bye.
Appreciate it. Bye.